Straight Talk Vermont with Linda Joy Sullivan, and we want to welcome back our featured guest, Pam Lads. Thank you again.
Good morning.
Great discussions. Best news I had today was when our wonderful producer over there turned around and said, "You're perfect." Meaning just the sound was perfect, but I haven't had anybody tell me I'm perfect in a long time.
There goes the delusion of the day.
That's right. That's right. Especially since I woke up this morning and I hit my head on the car door and I slashed my arm. So, okay,
Yeah.
so one positive thing was really good. Okay. What I do want to just touch base on is, we've been talking about transparency.
Right.
I want to touch a little bit about full transparency versus partial transparency, the pros and cons, or what makes it work, what doesn't make it work, and what really empowers the people. And is empowerment enough, or at what risk?
Let's start with empowerment, because that's a word that I find fascinating. And I love it when I hear people say, "Oh, we'll empower them." And I think, sure. Because if you empower somebody, you can take it away just as fast as you gave it.
Because you're the person.
That's right.
So there's no
You're
empowerment
saying,
going on.
You've got power, but it's not real.
Right.
Power is when we take that for ourselves, when we claim our own power. It's a power from within. It's not a power over.
So it's a decision.
Yes.
It's an actual
a decision
that we make.
Yes.
And we understand what our resources are.
Yes.
How far we can go and who we need to assist us.
Where we're going and why and what we want.
Define goals.
We're clear about what we want.
Define goals, define processes.
Yeah.
What are the parameters of getting us there, as opposed to you're empowered, go out and scream.
Yeah, I mean, what does that mean?
That's right.
So I was always empowered to scream, big deal.
I know, we were born, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So coming with our own empowerment, is the key. So so we have right now, there's the pros of full transparency, which I would say kind of gives people the hope, whether it be false hope or not, that there's going to be integrity within politics, right?
Yeah, good luck with that.
Right, but I'm saying, but that's kind of like full transparency, we're not hiding anything, But then there are restrictions because, there are sensitive negotiations. If you come out and you do full transparency, there's always the tendency to go with a political force as opposed to what's best for the citizens.
Right.
So you see it, and I love the fact that you're behind the camera,
Yeah.
But I'm for this discussion, so we're not talking about, hey, this is like my opinion, your opinion. It's what you see out there.
Yeah.
And so when you hear whatever you're doing out there, whoever you're videoing or whoever you're out there, even when you're doing your show, how do you see the people? Do they want full transparency?
No, I don't think anybody
so.
does.
Right.
I don't.
Right.
And I think that all of us have a right of privacy in some ways too. I mean, you can figure out where to be transparent and why. Transparency is for a reason. It's not for, let me troll through all of your dirty linen. I mean, that's stupid.
Right. Right. So we want accountability. Right. And the key is you put people in office.
Yes.
Because you hopefully trust that they are going to be the leaders who will be held accountable.
I elect people because I trust that they will represent me. I'm not electing a leader when I vote.
Right.
I want a representative. Somebody who is going to listen to what the voters want. I mean, some regions, some bigger places than Newport, have district representatives as opposed to for the whole town.
Right.
And the assumption is that that person will represent those of us who live in a particular district.
So let's take that to the level of our legislature.
Right.
Right? Forget, I'm not interested in like the local Newport. We've got, we understand the municipalities.
Absolutely.
We understand it's a different control factor.
Yeah.
Right now, what we're talking about is at the higher level, the people who are
Right.
really making the difference in the state of Vermont,
Well, we
who are
hope
then
they
going
are.
to, right, who are going to influence where Vermont
Yes.
stands within the rest of the United States.
Right.
So let's look at our legislative balance or whatever, or the people representing, let's say, Orleans, right?
Right.
How do you feel? Are they representing us? You
No.
know, and why? And where not?
They have those who are current. I didn't always feel that way. I think there were some who would listen. They may not always agree, but they would be willing to consider my point of view or somebody else's point of view. And like most areas, we're very divided up here. We have some strong opinions. We're used to running our mouths with both extremes and a lot in the middle. And those who sit on the extremes in the real world expect to sort of migrate slowly towards the middle. But our representatives up here currently, both, well, not so much at a representative level, but certainly at a senatorial level,
Okay.
are much further to the right than many of us.
Okay.
So I think there are those who have differing opinions who don't feel represented.
So let's look at that. When you say further to the right than most of the constituent
Yeah.
base, that's even further to the right than even our governor.
Absolutely.
Right.
Yes.
So when somebody takes a stance that way, what have you seen that may affect the decision making that trickles down to what will go? Like, is it, I know, housing, whatever, or is it specific bills, specific opinions, just attitudes, pulling more at the United States level? What do you see?
Some of it is. I don't think it's so much on specific bills, because even though our two senators currently do represent a viewpoint that's further to the right than the governor, definitely.
Right.
I think that they do listen to some extent and support some of the bills that have been produced. Let's use the cell phones in schools.
Okay, let's talk about that one.
You certainly got people from all sides of the spectrum, all parts of the spectrum, saying, yeah, these cell phones are a pain in the school. They're not helpful. So there was some pulling together around that. I think there are other issues where there is certainly a division between urban and rural. And within the rural community, there's a difference between those who live in a rural town versus those who farm outside the town, for good reason.
Right.
We have a lot of differences. I'm not sure that there's a place to discuss them or negotiate. And I think that's the piece that's a little lacking.
So let's take the House of Representatives versus the Senate. Okay, so the Senate, are you finding them more towards the farming industry, trying to assist there?
I think they are paying attention more than, and
it
we are
also
a rural
depends
area.
on what
Yeah.
your assignment is.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think we should be paying attention to the farms. We need our farms.
Right.
Big time. And we should be paying attention to that. But at the same time, you also have to factor in the environmental issues.
So let's go there. So that's where I was going next. So you want to look at the farmers.
Yes.
And their economic needs.
Big time.
But we also have water
Yes.
issues. And we also have other climate issues, but let's look at the water issues. So how do you say, I want to assist the farmers and not work on the water issues?
You can't.
So let's talk
They're
about
not
the water.
separable.
That's right. So
Not from where I sit, anyway.
So there's a huge conflict there, right? I mean,
There can be, but there doesn't have to be.
and what are you seeing that's creating that conflict?
I think because we're, quote, taking sides as opposed to looking at an issue.
So taking sides, help me here.
So you have the farmers who say we need to use fertilizers. Our soil over decades of misuse has been seriously depleted. We have to do stuff to feed that. And then the answer from the, quote, other camp is, yeah, and what about the runoff?
Okay.
Because the runoff comes into the water, that's a problem. And the farmer, again, rightly says, yeah, I can see that, but if I don't produce whatever the crop is or the hay, you're screwed.
So tell me about the runoff. The runoff, it happens,
Yes.
right? And what is the cure there? What are the fixes?
The cure.
The fixes, what are how do you mitigate it?
The cure is to keep it out of the water. And sometimes one of the mitigations is to change what is used as a fertilizer and rebuild the soil. There's so many ways of regenerating soil that take a lot of time and energy and thought. And we're not always putting that time and energy because the pressure of producing is right there.
Do we have the right groups together?
No,
to
we never
help?
have the right groups
Well, yeah.
together.
Okay, well, there we
Ever.
go. Hello, Vermont. But I'm saying,
We don't anywhere. It's not just here.
so let's look at here for right now. Okay, let's stay in Vermont. Okay, except for like Champlain and
Sure.
But how does our senators? How should they be working to get these
They should
mitigating
be listening
factors?
to more than lobbyists.
Well, that's what I want to know. Is who should they be listening to?
They should be listening to the groups who are doing good work with soil regeneration and looking at alternatives. But instead what happens is in march the lobbyists. They're well funded, they have their handy dandy little packages.
Their
They
clients.
say, let me help you. I mean,
Well,
this is
they're
my
there for their
work.
clients.
Of course
Right,
they
okay,
are.
so they're
Of
getting
course they
paid
are.
specifically to do what their clients
And
want.
the deep pockets pay them really well, and they pay a lot of them. I went to a hearing in
tell
Concord, New Hampshire.
Okay.
And there were 10 lobbyists for one specific business and a little group of activists, and you can guess which group I was part of.
Right.
But that was a water issue. And these landfill lobbyists, and that's who they were, 10 of them. It's really hard to beat down that. That's
Big
force.
business.
That's big business, really big business.
Big business.
And corporations are given personhood in this country, which is ridiculous.
So, right. So it's organized.
Very.
It's very
It's well-funded.
organized and well funded.
And the little groups are not.
So that takes me into this kind of second area where I was going in what I wanted to just chat about a little bit was where the transparency took us is in how do we get cleaner politics? Okay, and lobbyists can be a major issue. How do we
Yes.
clean the lobbyists?
Are you asking if there's such a thing as a clean lobbyist?
No, I'm
Probably
asking,
not.
How do you clean the lobbyists? I have a hard time like cleaning my cat litter.
Exactly. I don't think there is a clean lobbyist, because if you have a well-funded group, well, like a well-funded militia, marching in, that's the power base.
So it's the organization of lobbyists together.
Yes.
So how
They have the time and the money. What little groups don't have is the money, for a start. They have to take time out of their day jobs to be there, to be organized, and to do the work that goes ahead of that, the talking to the representatives and the senators, the giving them of information, the showing them alternative options.
So is our representative, let's take Orleans right now, from the House, talking to anybody? Talking to these groups?
Our representative actually does.
Okay.
And has.
Okay.
So he's
okay.
off the hook for now.
Well, but he's talking, but what is the action being taken?
He has actually submitted bills that have been, we'll use our own lake as
Yeah,
an
that's
example
right.
here. Our representative has submitted bills about protecting the lake. He has also pushed for the leaking crisis, which one of our senators actively opposed.
That's a controversial issue. The
Yeah.
Well, the lake and crisis title is really an issue. I have an issue with it. because you're calling it a lake in crisis.
Right.
I'm not saying it's not a lake in crisis, but what the details of the bill say can be
Yes.
harmful to what you're trying to achieve.
I understand that.
And so, resources to correct situations, like
Right.
calling it a lake in crisis and then turning the details of a bill that undo
Fortunately,
lake in
that's
crisis.
what the state did. We didn't choose that name. The state chose
No,
that
no,
name.
right. But that's your whole lobbying
And
concept.
this lake meets all of the criteria except one. And that one that it doesn't meet is probably never going to be met because it's about the price of real estate. And real estate, particularly waterfront real estate, goes up in price.
Of course.
Regardless of the water. So it's really, the only lake that hasn't been true was Lake Carmi. And it isn't even true there anymore because people still bought houses. So that's the only criteria that we missed
People will buy
out on.
lakefront property regardless of whether it is
Exactly.
darker lake, lighter lake,
Yeah.
medium lake. Right.
But this lake meets all of the other criteria. And what we would gain if we got that, quote, title, Lake in Crisis, and I agree with you about the title, because I think we overuse the word crisis.
Right.
Crisis should be an immediate thing, as opposed to something that's chronic. And what's happening is chronic.
Well, you see, that's what my issue
Yeah, I
is.
agree.
Is this chronic as opposed to
But that's not a reason to
crisis.
throw it out until,
But
until we can get the
but
result.
you're going to fix it.
Yeah, we got to fix it.
So what has so other than supporting it, knowing there are these issues, so what is our, and it doesn't have to be just Orleans County
No, it
Senator.
doesn't.
I mean, anyone.
It's anyone.
What are the senators doing about it?
Well, one of them's a realtor, so you can guess he's not doing diddly about it because it would be affecting his bread and butter if he did.
Okay, so there's our conflicts of issue.
Yeah,
So
big
cleaner
time.
politics. We have lobbying issues.
Yes.
We have conflicts of issues,
Yeah.
and we see that all the way down
Oh,
through
we sure
Newport
do.
itself.
We sure
okay,
do.
so we know that's a
Right.
major problem. I mean, the whole decision-making, political power, just for my
Absolutely.
own power control, and flip-flopping back and forth with the not-for-profits, going back to being political, et cetera. So we know all that, and our not-for-profits become lobbyists themselves.
Of course.
Okay,
Because
so
that's the only way that a person who's lobbying can get a paid job to do what they need to do.
Right.
So if the organization here, or all of the organizations supporting the lake, should be lobbying. Because if lobbying means giving information to legislators, they all should be doing that.
But they
How
won't
they
do it.
define it.
Yeah. And
Well,
why would they do
it? But
why
they do it
would,
in other
why
ways.
would they do it if it could harm their own financial well-being and their
Absolutely.
other wants and needs
So
for their
they-
own personal wealth and
They
gain?
find other ways of doing it, but they do it. I mean, none of them are squeaky clean. They all have their.
Can't believe you're saying that the politicians and
I'm
not-for-profits are not squeaky clean.
Welcome to the real world.
Welcome to the sarcasm of
exactly.
Straight Talk Vermont.
Exactly. Well, everywhere. It's not just here.
No, but I know, but
we
I'm
had
just
it in
saying.
Pennsylvania and New York. It's just you've got to do what you've got to do to get the message through. So you don't call it lobbying. You say, "Come and be on my
Come
board,"
and be on my board.
which
That's
is
right.
the same con game.
Oh, it's terrible. It's
Yeah.
absolutely terrible. I personally, and this is just me personally, have an issue with any elected official being on any board or commission. Okay.
I agree.
I think that, that whole control and conflict of interest is such an issue right there.
Yeah.
So we've got this water issues. We know everybody's saying, clean up the lakes, clean up the lakes. Thank
Right.
goodness they're saying that.
Now, if only they do it.
Well, but so now we have the business issues.
Yes.
So how do you mitigate this? How do our senators do this? Do our senators say, okay, I have a conflict of interest, I'm going to step down? No, of course not. They're not going to
Right.
do that. They're going to be loud and clear, and they're going to
Absolutely.
do whatever they want.
And they're going to pretend they don't have a conflict with anything.
That's right, because it's I decide if I have a
course,
conflict. And you
exactly.
know what? We were on our way to have an ethics commission that was going to stop that. Well, no, we'll get rid of that now because, nobody's going to tell us we have a conflict of interest.
Right.
Or we have
You have to have
issues.
ethics to have an ethics commission.
An ethics commission to start.
Exactly.
So,
and you can do it a different way. I mean, you don't have to have your very own personal legislator. You can make big
Sure.
buddies with the state organizations.
well,
so
there
if
you go.
we're talking
Cronyism.
water,
Let's talk about cronyism.
big time again.
So, how do our Vermont legislators, and I'm not talking about individuals, I know
Mm-hmm. Right.
they're all good people, they're out
Yeah,
there,
I'm
and
not
I
knocking
like,
that.
oh my God, running and serving, that's a big deal. It's a
very little
big
money.
deal.
Peanuts, actually.
Well, that's just because of our structure,
Yes.
quite honestly.
Yeah.
If it wanted to be, you want people to get paid high money, well, then that's great.
I'd
Set
like
a
them to get a
stat-
living wage, then they don't have to do
Well,
other
I
backroom
actually would
deals.
like them to get a living wage provided that they were set qualifications for them to
That would
run.
work.
So I don't think you just pay them. I think the bottom line is there has to be minimum level qualifications, pure vetting of conflicts of interest.
Right.
Then you eliminate who could
Yes.
run, and then you pay them. That's a different structure.
Right.
So if you're going to do that, that's fine. Otherwise, if you want to do this citizens legislature, you know what? You are pro bono, so get out there and be pro bono. Okay. That's the way it is. Okay.
That's true.
And so either you do that model or you do the licensed, educated, get
Right.
paid for a term limit.
Yeah.
With term limits.
Definitely a term
Okay,
limit.
so that's your choice. And Vermont's not changing. They're going to be
No.
the citizen legislature,
Right.
so is what it is. And I applaud the fact that they go out there and they do it. However, we've got to clean up the cronyism.
Right.
And that is huge.
Yes, it is.
Huge, because when you're going out there, people want transparency, they want clean politics.
Right.
But when you go into a legislature and people are like, oh, we're family.
Yes.
You're not family.
Right. Or my woodlot is fueling Montpelier.
Yeah, right.
Oh, great.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Okay, and we've seen all of this
It's
going
happening.
on. And when you have conflicts, that creates further conflicts of interest. I mean, revolving doors, it's like, okay, you're going to go from this position to then going into, executive director for not-for-profit to
Yeah.
continue.
Isn't that amazing?
Continue the same modus of operation.
Right.
I mean, so
And if you-
how do we clean politics?
We have to want to for a
You have
start.
to want to do it, and I don't see that want.
I don't either.
There's a need.
Yes.
But no want.
And I don't think there's anybody who denies the need.
Right.
But
we
the
use that.
want
Yeah.
is a
But we
whole
use-
different ball game.
But I've seen that need being used as the buzzwords to get the want
Yeah, I
and
have
the
too.
re-election, okay? And
Look at the EB5 stuff and the lateral
There you go.
promotions and circulations that happened around that. It's come
that are
on.
continuing
Yes.
to happen. They haven't
Exactly.
gone away. We're doing it again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Here it comes, like round 2.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean, that's horrific. But we've got the public sector right now saying, okay, we want all this. We want transparency,
And we
limited,
do.
full, but appropriate.
Yes.
Okay. And so how does that take us into issues like you wanted to talk about, housing
do.
and economic development? So let's talk about housing.
Yeah. And you can't really separate housing from economic development.
There you go.
Except the housing issue has been coming for a really long time. We've been watching it and pretending it wasn't there, watching it, pretending, watching, pretending. And somehow we've turned it into a policing thing. We've said that housing is the problem of law enforcement. Not that housing is a situation that has been created partly because there's an...
Wait, could you explain this a little further?
Which bit would you like?
Okay, let's do the law enforcement, problem of law enforcement. Help me here.
How the municipalities and the towns
Right.
are handling unhoused people, and we
Okay,
all
okay,
have unhoused people, is by saying we need an adequate ordinance so that the police know how to handle this. And I agree, the police are in a horrible position.
Well, I'm going to just interject right there. First of all, we have statutes that give enforcement power to the police on this. You don't need an ordinance.
They want ordinances.
You don't need it. Okay, you already have the statutes that are there, and ordinances usually don't hold up in court anyway on this. So
why are we doing it? Right. Good
okay,
question.
other than to say,
Look what we've
the
just
governor
done.
said we should look at housing, so we're going to look at housing and homelessness, as they call it, so that I can, politically be out there saying this is what I'm doing.
So I can say to people, you can't stop here, you can't camp here, you can't park your car here, move on. Well, where do I move?
But you can
That's
say
not
that
my
anyway.
problem. Well, yes, you can. But they would like a piece of paper that says, I have the weight of Newport Town or whoever.
That's right.
That I can say, I didn't make this decision. A body of people made this decision.
So the key is
you move on.
Your ordinances, if you must have them, right, which you can clearly hear I'm not for this ordinance.
I got it.
It should be resource oriented.
Yes,
Okay.
totally.
So first of all, how are you even deciding, okay, what is needed for enforcement if you have no understanding of the reason why, the build-up, if it is getting more and more in locales, okay, what's causing it? What is the real reason? Is it coming from the drug scene, or is it coming from the divorce scene? Is it coming from no jobs? Is it coming from resources being pulled?
Jobs,
Right, but I'm saying all the resources being pulled.
Is it coming from mental illness? Is it coming from physical illness?
Or all of these factors?
It's all of the factors. And we like to assume, and it's an assumption, that all unhoused people are the same. No, they're not, but we do make that assumption. We assume that they're gypsies, tramps, and thieves. That's
Good song.
That is, of course, what goes through my head. Songs quite often go through my head when I sit in meetings. But that is the assumption, and it's not true. It's so untrue, it's infuriating.
Well, of course, every individual comes with their own set of factors. Right. Every single individual.
And if you're housing insecure, food insecure, hygiene insecure, you're going to become mentally ill and anxious and erratic.
It's kind of scary that even those maybe potential people who are doing the assessment may have some illness issues.
Of course.
Okay.
Could be any of us.
I mean, some, whether they were addicts before, alcohol, whatever.
Right.
So you're looking at this and you're saying, okay, the leaders are, so, and then it's also, when you do an enforcement type of ordinance, when you already have the law on your side to do enforcement when it's appropriate, are you saying, well, I've met Mr. or Miss X out there for 10 years and I just don't like that person, so I need an ordinance so I don't have to deal with that person anymore. Okay, I mean, the key here is, where are you going to get them safely? How do you do that with their permission? How do you get resources there?
Right.
Where do you get the funding?
Right.
Okay, and how do you be consistent with that? Consistency is key.
Absolutely.
Not, hi, you're homeless, I'm going to send Joni from this agency over, who shows up and goes, well, they didn't want my help, so I'm leaving.
Here's a packet of pasta. Here's a jar of sauce. Oh, you've got nothing to cook it on? Oh, what a shame. But I did my bit to help.
Right.
That happens.
So let's go through this Vermont. I don't know, or really, this is
It's
not
everywhere.
just Vermont.
It's not just Vermont.
It's
everywhere.
far from Vermont. It's everywhere.
And actually, I want to step back.
Sure.
Because I don't think it's a law enforcement issue. I understand that they get called in because very often people are nuisances. So therefore, somebody calls and said, there's some guy squatting on my porch, come and move him. That's
happens. Different, though.
Yes, but it's part of the same
yes,
problem.
but I'm saying,
If
but
you've
that's
got
a law
nowhere to go.
enforcement issue.
Right.
Right.
So there's a group who may hang out near a school, for example. The school panics, oh my God, the parents have to walk through this to pick up their kids. They're going to be terrified because obviously these have to be rapists and pedophiles. Not true.
Right.
But there are assumptions like that.
Well, yeah, that's right. And just like when in New York, you'd walk through the Bowery, the assumption years and years ago was that what it was. Not so anymore. Okay, now there's resources going on.
Right.
And
But
the
if you
resources are the key.
They are. But if you walk through San Francisco, you'd never know there were resources based on the number. But reality, why aren't we looking at this as a public health issue?
It is
and not,
public.
of course it is, but it's never looked at in that way. It's only framed in terms of law enforcement, as opposed to public health, mental health, which is part of public health, and economic development, because that does come into it.
So I think what's going on here, I think, and this is, again, just my own perception. I think the reason that it's being looked at as law enforcement is because when people see public health, they just take out the public safety segment of public health, because that works to justify the need for these defined ordinances. Okay, first of all, there and I know the administration really is working in a bigger picture.
They better move faster.
Well, the problem is if you get these little local ordinances that interfere with just to say, look, we're helping you. No, you're not helping. Okay. No. So the key right now is what you have to identify the population. You have to identify where they're going and what they need. So let's say they're going to schools. Okay, and they're trying clearly to, and people bond. Okay?
Absolutely.
So they're bonding, they're finding grouping areas, okay, to settle. Nobody's going to come out. I mean, I did this, when I spoke about trafficking and addiction, nobody goes, oh, gee, I'm bored, I really hope I'm trafficked. Okay, nobody comes out and goes, oh, hi, I'm bored, I really hope I'm going to be homeless one day. Okay.
That would be a new experience.
That's
Let's
right.
try it.
Yeah, or nobody turns around and says, I'm born, can I have a needle in my arm? That's not how it works.
Exactly.
Okay, so you turn around and we have, say, people who say, okay, there's a school and we're going to camp out there. It's a call for safety.
Absolutely.
For them. They want to be safe. They like to sleep. They like to eat. They like to
congregate.
They become a community, as a sub-community.
Sure.
And it doesn't mean they all get along, but I'm just saying.
Well, just like any other community.
Like human beings.
Right.
And so what is needed is a list of resources. Big deal. Here's a list of resources. They're going to go, thank you very much. This will, if I light it,
this is
warm,
useless,
it's fine.
right? Yeah.
So,
and we have very few resources here, as you know.
well, my concern is the type of resources that we have. You have resources, and we make sure that they set their own silo protocols, and you also know I'm not like a big push for these silos. And that's not my thing. So
yeah, I agree.
These agencies really bother me. And so you turn around and you're paying X amount for executive directors, and they work X amount of hours that they want. There's no oversight. There's just giving grants.
Not anymore.
But that now we're going to start to see a difference.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is that? They definitely need professional assistance here.
Absolutely.
Not just big hearts or I got the money, I have to show up on Monday. They didn't want to come, so we don't have to do anything.
Professional assistance.
Professional
and structure.
assistance. That's right. Structure.
Because that gives some security. It's predictable.
So structure, as well as the safety part, they need protection.
Yes.
They need protection from the public.
Yes.
And
big
when
time,
they have
again.
that safety factor, give it to them, and they don't feel threatened, there may be more of a chance that they can move forward.
They have the stability and the safety to make some life changes. But you've got to have that before you can do anything.
Well, right, and just doing these things off the shooting from the hip. Oh, let's do an ordinance because this is the topic of the year. Right now, let's focus on what they need.
Yeah, I mean, the hotel motel program.
Right.
It served a purpose during COVID because
Correct.
there really wasn't a choice then. But it has become so
Abusive.
Misused, abused, and unhelpful.
You're absolutely, I agree with you 100%
It's just
on this.
ridiculous.
Yeah, that good change, and it needs to be
Yes.
changed even more.
Yes.
You know, and the other issue is, you know, there's always the issue of the benefits cliff, which means,
Oh,
you know,
that's a mess.
but you can't look at this mess for 50 years and say, it's a mess, I can't figure it out, I'm not going to look anymore.
Right.
You need to figure it out. I mean, there need to be time constraints. Like, you get this benefit for X amount of years, and here's the resources of transition to this.
Yeah, that's true. And at the same time, when you pull the benefits before the person has got their feet firmly on the ladder, you've screwed them again.
But you need to let them know.
Of course, of course.
That could help.
For example, a single parent with a couple of kids, so her kid gets sick, her place of employment says, sorry, we can't keep you. She's falling off that ladder, but because she's done X number of days, they're going to yank the benefits without giving her a way of being able to get her feet back on the ladder.
Right, and that's what
It's
I'm saying. You
ridiculous.
have to look at the benefits cliff, and you can't
Right.
turn around and say, it's a mess.
Right.
It's not fixable. It is fixable. You need to take the segments of it.
Yes.
You need to look at the different cases. And quite honestly, I'm going to go here again. We need more professionals in there, not just social workers. Okay, we need licensed professionals, business people. We need business.
You do understand I was a social worker.
Yeah, I understand. That's why I said that. No, but we need social workers.
Yes.
But we don't need social workers running the business side of the analysis.
You can do both. I mean, you can have both
But
perspectives, but most don't.
No, they don't.
Yeah.
And they're also
And-
given the job of going out there.
Right.
And that's where they're needed.
Yes.
But that information needs to come back
Yes.
to the business people who can help analyze and
Right.
figure out, because the benefits cliff is numbers.
Yes.
I hate to say it.
It's true.
It's not
it's
people.
True. It is true. And there
Okay?
has to be a balance.
There you go. Right.
And people understand that. I mean, it's useless just having a bleeding heart bleeding. That doesn't achieve anything. But somehow there's a belief that social work means getting into the well with somebody who's fallen
Well,
down
that's
it.
right.
What a dumb move that is. How
So
do you get out?
Let's talk about
Yeah.
social work, okay? Because social workers are so important, but they also need to be placed properly and assisted.
Yes.
You see, you can't just say, you're a social worker, this is fantastic, go out there and fix the world.
Oh, I wish I could wave my
But
wand.
you
can't. You
So,
can't. It's a
what
joke.
is your social worker? What is the expectation of a social worker when they're given an assignment?
Most social workers are so overwhelmed by the sheer numbers of assignments and the sheer volume of people, all of whom genuinely need help, some of whom are manipulating the system, but most are not. You can't even see your way out of it. It's way too many.
So when you're dealing with people who are within the system,
Yes.
regardless of how they got there, why they got
Yes.
there, they also become conditioned to be in the system.
They have no
And
choice,
You
they
have to
think.
change behaviors.
Right.
So how do you change the behavior? Is it your understanding as a social worker that you're put there to do behavior modification?
Sometimes it depends.
So how are social workers trained to do that?
My background is a complicated one, so
Because you have nursing
yeah,
and
I
all,
have
you
a,
have like
I have
all
a whole
the good
bunch of it.
stuff.
I have the public health
But
piece.
that's my point. That's
Yes.
what's needed.
Yes.
Different than the social worker who's not trained for behavior modification.
Some social work programs do train that,
right,
others don't.
But
yeah.
But I mean, that's go to school. I mean,
that's right.
We're talking doctor level here, you know. I mean,
well, no, it doesn't have to be.
But
that
I'm
can be
saying
pretty
it
basic.
could be.
Yes.
But I'm saying, you know, the Skinner, give me your baby.
Social workers should go to school.
Right. That's what I'm saying.
Anybody who's working, quote, in the field should go to school. And it doesn't have to
continually.
That's right. It doesn't have to be a high-flung, expensive school.
No.
I mean, in terms of healthcare, my training was free. I'm from another culture, obviously.
But that's okay.
But I was cheap labor during my years of schooling.
Okay.
Which meant I got an incredible amount of hands-on learning.
That's fantastic.
At the same time as I was getting academic training.
But that's the key. That's how it used to be.
Yes,
you needed
and
to
it
have
should
both.
be, I think.
Right.
But that's my less than humble opinion.
No, and I agree with you. So you have, but there's
And the same
a
for
burden
social
on these
workers,
social
too.
workers. That's what I'm saying.
It's not just academic.
And
it's
I think
tough.
the social workers want so much. Their desire is to make it better.
People want to make a difference. They can see steps that people can take if they can just get to those steps. But there's usually so much debris in the way. It's really hard to do that. That's where it becomes overwhelming.
So the people who are, say, without homes, whatever the issue, whether it be by choice, whether it be by force, whatever.
It's rarely by choice.
But I mean, there are some.
Yes,
people
there are very
who
few, but there are some.
Consider it, you know, freedom and
On the road again, right?
whatever, they're out there.
Yes.
Okay. How does a social worker? How do they break the barrier of saying, I have these resources, but how do you communicate if somebody says, I don't want them?
Okay, that's your choice.
So how do you, they say we don't want them, how do you stop it turning into a law enforcement issue at that point, because that might not be the step where law enforcement should come in yet.
Right. It's not usually the step where law enforcement should come in. And individual choice in that is really important. And I don't know how comfortable people are, quote, in this country with that. I think Europeans may have that one figured out a little better.
Okay.
Which is that there is a culture of being on the road, but somehow here we don't value that. There is a choice to do that, and if somebody says to you, thank you, I hear what you're offering, I don't want it.
Correct.
And that's when you say, okay.
Okay, goodbye.
Cool. Are you... And at the same time, you're looking to see if they're in a place where they can safely and sanely make that decision. Some can, some can't.
Right.
If they can't make that decision, then that may be a point for the involvement of the legal system. Or you wait a little longer and just see if it changes.
So when their life, though, I mean, if it's very cold outside, then you do need to try to do what you need to.
You need to do something to keep them safe.
Right. And that's where the safety part comes in.
Yeah.
And that's so there also could be ways that the locations where there are, you know, heating places,
warming shelter, right.
So that, but even other things that could be done.
The little heaters for a tent.
Whatever it is.
Yes.
Okay, so.
But you've got to have a place for that.
That's right.
You can't have somebody constantly saying, sorry, you can't do that here. Oh, well, you could try over there, but no, we'll move you on from there as well.
So what
That's
would be the distinction if I have a home and I decided that it's absolutely gorgeous out tonight and I'm just going to sit outside in the city?
You can
all
do that.
night.
Be my guest. What's wrong with that?
Correct. What's wrong with that?
Nothing.
So person A, who doesn't have the home, is there.
Yep.
More rowdy than me? Probably not. Okay.
No, probably not.
Okay. No. Right. Unless the Thai place doesn't do it. Right. So the key here is who's making the determination.
Right. Who decides who should be moved on and who isn't?
Right.
The reality is, if you chose to sit out for a night, nobody's going to say anything to you.
No, I'd probably be encouraged by my family.
Well, yeah, they'd be happy that you were doing it. But the police are not going to move you on, and nobody's going to complain. They may give you a sideways look if they pass, if they even notice.
Right.
But the habitual person who may be talking to themselves or shouting. There was somebody who used to walk up and down Main Street pushing a cart.
Correct.
People got really upset by her, but she was okay most of the time. And she knew when she wasn't and when she wanted help and when she didn't.
But she was able to distinguish and able to make that choice and reach out.
She was. She didn't always convey that choice very politely, but she was certainly able to do that.
Well, communication isn't always polite. We've learned that.
She was pretty clear about that. And when it was time for her to go somewhere, she made that choice for herself.
So I guess the key too is, you know, as long as somebody's not going to cause harm to someone else or to themselves.
Right.
So here's your social worker issue. Okay. Social workers are not there 24/7 because there is, say, somebody who needs assistance who they haven't quite gotten the trust yet, where they've turned around and said, you know what, okay, I do want to talk to you. So we don't want to blame the social worker for not going there every single day.
Of course not.
Okay, so how do we help the social workers with resources? They need money.
They need money, and they need practical resources. If the state isn't going to up the money or put the money in, and they may not be able to anymore thanks to what's happening nationally, what resources can be made available? Can you make coffee available and at a real practical level?
Oh yeah, with the new tariff on coffee, that's going to work.
Yeah, you know, you're right. I'm appalled by that as a coffee drinker.
Please.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know, that's my morning.
Yeah. Very bad suggestion.
Do you have some spare blankets or some towels? Other things that you can do? Can you give one of those little heaters to the agency who can then make a decision about where to place it? Or if you're comfortable talking to the people you meet on the street, and some of us do. I mean, some of us chat to everybody.
So what not-for-profits do we know that are, when they're out there, we have not-for-profits, do they actually employ social workers as well?
Some of them do. Some don't.
How could we have a not-for-profit that doesn't employ the social workers with the understanding that it is really the social workers who are our frontline workers?
Yes.
So we know, who are they giving their resources to? How are they getting out there to these people?
They're probably not. Probably not.
So they're
and they may
waiting
not
for,
even
say, the
think it's their
state
job.
social workers to come to those not-for-profits and say, oh, you're a resource, I'm going to try to get this person over to you?
Well, some of the housing agencies, for example, have SASH workers who are social workers who are working with people, ideally in housing, but sometimes who are not as well. But ideally, they're working with people at one part of the spectrum of housing, hopefully to maintain the person in that situation and stop them becoming unhoused, homeless.
So, but when I'm trying to distinguish and trying to understand, I mean, I understand it.
Yeah.
This isn't my opinion. I just want to try to get it out there for the listeners. We have social workers within the states.
Yes.
They have, you know, DCF or whatever the organizations are called. They are there, okay, whether they work in silos or whatever, they are there to communicate with the other not-for-profits partnerships, right, and the designated agencies. And you know, I'm not a fan of them, but
we can tell.
And so because they work in silos and because I think it's broken.
I agree.
Okay, I'm not saying it shouldn't be fixed, but I think it's broken and it is not healthy.
Right. Open plan would be much more
better.
effective. Not for an office, but for agencies.
So they are responsible for reaching out. And it turns out that if these designated agencies aren't monetarily empowered with resources and appropriate educated social workers,
Yes.
they're going to fail. So everything's broken. I mean, it's totally broken.
Yes.
So is there a solution? I think there are plenty.
I think there's always a solution.
Yeah,
And
a
there's
lot
real
of ideas on that.
basic level. We've taken the community out of social work.
There you go.
And
That's what I meant by the silos of it.
part of the social work program that I did, and we're talking 100 years ago now, was about community action, community work. And we have an organization that has community action in the title. But I think they're under-resourced for a start. And they have so many day-to-day tasks. The community organizing part of it really isn't there.
But
So
it was
hard
my
to do.
understanding as well, when I went to school, et cetera, and people were going for social work, social workers, that it was all about the community. I mean, that it was a partnership with the concept.
Yes, but
That it was community activism, that how could you be a social worker without that support?
I think the activism part of social work has been somehow chewed up and tossed away.
Right.
It's really hard to be an activist, particularly when organizations think they can lose their funding.
Do you think it's
if
the
they have.
word?
Activist? I like the word.
Yeah, but I'm just saying, do you think that it's
maybe,
getting such a bad
maybe.
rap that people are afraid to say they're...
Maybe. I mean, sometimes I refer to myself as a socialist, and you should see people's hair stand on
right.
it, and it's hilarious.
Right.
So I do it for fun.
But it's almost like that empowerment.
Yes.
Right. The words
Yeah.
are getting used so politically now with, negative connotations.
We use them to scare each other.
Right. But the community involvement, is key for a social
Totally.
worker.
And for any form of healthcare or public health, you have to have community involved.
I mean, I get the distinction, nursing is internal, if you have to watch your license and,
Oh, yeah.
And so...
But you can work well within that.
I'm saying, so
I
you have
worked
your
in the
license.
community
Right. But I'm saying
as a
social
nurse.
workers
Yeah.
are not licensed.
Well, they are.
No, but I'm saying
they can be.
They
It
can
depends.
be.
If you're a clinical social worker,
Yeah, I want to know the distinctions.
you're licensed. If you're a social worker working in the trenches, very often not. And a lot of them are not even trained, and that's so unfair to do to somebody.
Well, that's why I don't like them using the title.
Yeah.
That's where I'm going.
Right.
It's like either you're a social worker, you're licensed clinically,
Yeah.
or you should have a different title.
Probably.
Because you are not being fair to the professionals. And I find that, throughout, people don't understand the difference between, bookkeeper, accountant, CPA. They don't, lawyers in Vermont that get to read for the law. That's my opinion, that I don't agree with it. But I'm just saying, licenses to me are powerful. They are held to a higher fiduciary responsibility, and I think licensed social workers deserve that.
Well, except the only social workers who are, quote, licensed are the ones who are clinical social workers. They're not the ones who are out in the community. So
But-
licensure is very often used as a cudgel. And
Well, where I'm going is they shouldn't be using the term social worker.
well, they are social workers.
Well, but
more so than the clinician who is
there needs
working
to
on
be,
somebody's mental
there
health.
needs to be an understanding of the definition, is what I'm saying.
That's true for any job, though.
Right, but what I'm saying is, people need, I can't hold myself out as a CPA if I'm not licensed.
Right.
So I would call myself, let's say, an accountant. All I'm
Yeah.
saying is there's a distinction. Now, I think...
But you allow difference in the legal field. So, for example,
No, of course,
my partner was a public defender.
Right.
And then there would be people saying, oh, no, I want a real lawyer, not a public defender.
Got you. I understand. And and I hear you, and that's
and
where
the
I'm
different
going.
specialisms,
So,
but you're all lawyers or accountants,
Right.
or whatever. We can all be social workers.
well, that's where I'm going, is I don't want to take away the credibility of the social worker who's not licensed, but I want people to understand what their limitations are, because I think that people don't realize that they don't have the resources.
Right.
And I think this is what it really is. It's resources.
Yeah.
You know, and so you hear social worker.
I think you're asking for somebody to be credentialed. I don't believe that licensure.
Yeah,
is a
I'm not
credential.
talking. Well, no,
So-
license is entirely different. That's
Exactly.
entirely
So
different.
I think it's important that people are credentialed. That
Yeah,
they
license
have
is regulatory.
the
That's- yeah.
experience and the training. The regulatory bit, I think,
That's
is for
different.
birds. I don't care about
Well,
that.
I think it's important in certain areas, but
Could
I'm
be,
just saying,
yeah.
but I'm just saying, I think it's very important in certain areas. But
Some of the most skilled people I have met.
yeah,
have not
but that's
been
personality.
licensed.
That's not
Yeah.
What I'm saying is the credentials are key.
Yes.
And my concern.
Credentials are important. I
And
agree.
that's my concern.
Training,
So,
yeah.
you know, people want to know the distinctions. And so social workers need help.
Social workers do need help, they need training, and the agencies and the state should be providing that. I mean, I worked briefly in a long-term care facility and
Okay.
rehab. That was a joke, but that's what it was called. And the person who was the social worker there was really an LNA who had had no additional training. That made my hair stand on end.
Help me here.
She was a licensed nursing assistant
but
with
so-
6 weeks training, and she was working as a, quote, social worker in this institution.
And that's where I'm going.
And that's wrong.
That's wrong. And
That is wrong.
that's where
That
I'm
was
going.
so wrong for her, and it was wrong for the person she was supposed to be helping. Now, reality, it didn't need to be somebody with real clinical skills for what she was doing.
But
it was
that's a fluke.
It was ridiculous, right?
Yeah. Okay, so this is important. Cleaning up politics, okay? Transparency, partial, you know, I mean, this whole conflict of interest ethics stuff, it's a mess.
It is a mess.
It's a mess. And if that's the leadership concept right now, or that's what's the driving force right now, just as long as I'm a leader, keep me a leader, I don't care about anything else.
Yeah.
How do we fix the real issues? It's broken.
Yes, it is. And the public, that's all of us, have to start saying, come on, this isn't okay. This is not acceptable the way it is.
The public, you're right. The
All of
public
us.
needs to
All
now
of us.
start to.
But we have to get energized as opposed to being sedated. And we're sedated.
I agree.
I mean, a friend of mine who's 83, who's really active,
When I'm 83,
was
I want to be
ranting.
sedated.
yeah, she was ranting about something appropriately, and her daughter said, well, just turn off the TV. And she was trying to get her daughter energized. It was hilarious, actually. But the daughter meant that, you know, turn it
should.
off and we
Turn
don't
it
have
off.
to pay attention to what's happening. Well, damn it, you do have to pay attention.
Yeah,
Because
that's what's
this is
going
all
on
of
now.
us. We really need to be paying attention, or you're going to lose what you've got. Wake up.
Well, it's just going to be repetition. It's going to get worse, and the hole's going to get digger and digger and
Right.
deeper and deeper and deeper.
Yep.
And so, not
So
good.
wake up.
Woo.
Yeah.
So we
Smell
want
the
to.
coffee you can't afford anymore.
That's right. Reduce the corruption,
Yes.
because it is corruption.
Yeah, and I sometimes wonder, do they even know that? Do those who are pulling our strings, do they understand it's corruption?
I
We
would
can
say
toss
that
out
a
the
lot of them
buzzwords,
do.
Probably.
They may not want to use the word corruption.
No, they don't like
But
that.
maybe they should look at that legal
I
definition.
used the word honesty the other day in a meeting, and I flipped out a couple of people who were trying to reassure me that what was happening wasn't dishonest. Well, it was dishonest, but you know.
Of course it is. Yeah, no, we want to foster, we want the people to have a trust, you know, more fostered trust in institutions. We want that.
Right.
But we're not doing it. And we're
No.
not going to do it with this whole leadership that's out there right
No.
now.
And we also can't pretend that everything's just swimming along and it'll be fine if
Yeah,
we
look
just
the other way.
keep going.
Keep kicking the can down the road.
Because it won't. It really won't.
Oh no, it's going to explode.
Yeah. And probably the thing that would actually get people's attention here is if they truly thought they were going to lose their healthcare facility. And they are.
They may need to step up and pay attention to that.
If the changes that we've been told are coming, we will lose our healthcare facility. It's
All
not
right.
even a question.
So on that
note, I heard the knock.
I want you to pay attention to what we talk about here on Straight Talk Vermont, because there's a lot of good information, and I want to thank NEK-TV for hosting this wonderful show, and I want to thank you, Pam, for being here. You are
I'm running my
amazing.
mouth.
No, it's important. That's what we're here to talk about, is these issues. People need to see them from your expertise, from your point of view, from your experience, from everybody's different viewpoint.
We all have a different viewpoint.
We have a different viewpoint, and that's what it's all about. So, until next week, thank you for joining me on Straight Talk Vermont with Linda Joy Sullivan, where we get it straight.